It's aye, Captain.
So this is our presentation over our F-117 stealth fighter.
Oh, wait, so we found the original measurements of the airplane. There were 43 feet and 4 inches, then 65 feet 11 inches for the length, and 12 feet 5 inches from the height. And I believe we just converted those down by multiplying by 12 to get it into inches and then dividing by 72, which was our ratio that we used. We just used 1/72 scale because it's like a standard scale for modeling. So that's what we used. There's our math for that.
So for our angles, we basically broke the plane down into like a bazillion different pieces. I don't know if you probably can't see them clearly, but it was just a lot of triangles. Like the nose pieces were all just triangles, so we broke those down into triangles. And we started using the law of cosines and the Pythagorean theorem to find the angles that we were measuring from a Google SketchUp model. So we'd like measure the lengths and then figure out the angles. But then we started using a protractor on the Google SketchUp model to find the actual angles. And they were correlating with what we were doing for the law of cosines, so it worked. So like that's like the cockpit kind of sketch. We draw out like each portion, put the angles on, put the measurements, and then we construct it from there.
Some of the materials we used were foam board, which we used for the base, scissors, an X-Acto knife, ruler, protractor, white colored pencil to help see our lines, paper, mostly for the blueprint sketches, a calculator, owner's clear glue, and super glue. And then we also used Google SketchUp, like he said before. And on Google SketchUp, we used the protractor, the ruler, and the paint tool too. And we used the paint tool to color different pieces so we knew what we were working on and to see like where lines met and different angles. So that was very beneficial.
These are some of the pictures that we took to show you from the Google SketchUp.
So these are just different things that we can see from Google SketchUp. There's lots of pictures, you can just click around.
It was to scale too, which was the important thing. Like we looked at the measurements online, like what the wingspan or the length and the height would be, and then we measured it in Google SketchUp and found that it was like pretty much dead on. So any angles we would have got from that would have been accurate to the real life scale model.
And
Also, an advantage of the Google SketchUp is we didn't have to worry about what the camera angle was and how that would affect angles on the plane. With the Google SketchUp, we have a 3D model that we can maneuver and manipulate however we wanted. We could delete spaces so we can get a better, measurement of a single piece, and then, hit Command Z and then boom, the plane's back. And also to top it off, we gave it a nice matte black stealth jet finish, the extra stealthiness.
By using Google SketchUp, it helped eliminate some of our errors that we were making before. Just because all the angles were exact and we didn't have to worry about any errors we made mathematically with the raw sines and law of cosines.
Well, maybe something important to that is we did a lot of rounding too. Instead of like using these ridiculously long point numbers, we'd round it up to a whole number or a 0.5 number just to make the math considerably easier. So.
Questions from the gallery? Okay, so you said you use Google SketchUp. How did you get that in there? Like, how do you go about doing it?
I thought of it as we started using the pictures like everyone else, and it popped in my head, well, how about I just check Google SketchUp and see if someone spent 20 years of their life making this? And I did.
Yeah, you can download the model, so we just downloaded it into one thing.
So you just searched for,
F-117.
Yeah.
and it put it in there for you?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It was that easy.
Like
There's a lot of them that aren't just scales.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
a lot
We
of
took the
models.
top 3, like most detailed ones, and we measured them. and the one we chose was the most accurate to what the actual thing was.
How did you know it was most accurate?
We'd measure it using Google SketchUp ruler.
And then we compared it
Yeah.
to real measurements that we got from like websites.
And we had already made some of the sine and cosine blueprint stuff that he was working on. And so we had those angles to measure. So we compared those with the Google SketchUp to get most accurate.
Awesome. How did you know, like on the panels, you said you used it to like you colored a panel and then you just did that piece. And how did you know how to put it all together?
I was kind of in charge of that.
That was a lot of error. Like, we use a lot of pictures and we use the model to make sure everything was in the right place.
And what we'd do, we'd measure out like certain triangles, and for this front cockpit piece, I just connect the triangles together on a piece of paper, draw it out, do a little snipping, and fold it over so we could, keep all the pieces down to a minimum.
Right. Beautiful job. Here you go. You're on.
Alright, so to make our F-117 jet, we used Google SketchUp because you can measure things and look at the different angles and maneuver your camera, because we basically have a completely 3D model that we can get from any angle without changing our perspective. This model is to scale, so it's like the real size, even though it doesn't look like that because there's nothing to give you an orientation of its size. But yeah, you can measure in whatever using the measurement tool from one point to another, and in the bottom right, which is off the board at the moment, but it would show a measurement and it makes a line so you can measure your distances. There's also a protractor tool, which would take a little bit longer to get to, so you can find all the angles that way. And
You can paint parts. It's super cool. It's blue.
yeah, so if you were working on like a specific part of the plane, or you needed to change something, you can color it so you can figure out what you've measured or what you haven't measured. Same with like deleting things. You could just straight up delete an entire wing or detach part of the plane. Like you can copy. You could copy like one part of the, like maybe this one. If you had a keyboard, you can copy that and pull it out and just have that one specific shape so you can measure it without interfering with the rest of the model. But that's how we found our measurements and our angles for our F-117.
Awesome. Thanks, boys.